This career readiness standards training is being shared with teachers to outline the data collection requirements of artifacts for career readiness. A little bit of background and history to share. Beginning in the 2017-2018 school year, school entities began reporting student-level data for the Career Readiness Indicator to the state. LIU teachers have been asked to collect artifacts since that time as well. Teachers of students in grades 5, 8, and 11 were asked to report the collection of these artifacts yearly in the spring. This PowerPoint is intended to provide a review of those requirements. In addition, it will outline some changes in the collection, storage, and reporting process that have recently occurred. Career readiness standards were implemented in 2017. They include 4 strands: career awareness and preparation, career acquisition, career retention and advancement, and entrepreneurship. It's important to note that not all students must have the same pieces of evidence. Instead, the evidence should be individualized to meet the needs of students' interests and learning styles, and can include activities for specific student populations, including transition plans for students in special education programs and activities for English learners, students in CTE programs, and students in online or alternative education placements. In a student's portfolio, we should see a cumulative series of evidence. We want students to explore in the early grades, to plan in the middle, and then to implement that plan. We would want to see them make choices in the right order, choices that build to a career and build to an efficient way to attain that career. For example, we wouldn't want students to pick a college, then a major, and then a job. Collection of artifacts for students who are in 12th grade and above is not required. The reason for this is that federal accountability is taken in the 11th grade. Seniors often have dual enrollment or work-based learning options. Students can also graduate early, which is another reason that 12th grade is not used for accountability. Ideally, by the end of grade 5, the student has produced 6 or more pieces of evidence. This looks like at least 2 pieces of evidence accumulated by the end of grade 3, and at least 2 pieces of evidence each year in grade 4 and grade 5. Evidence should be collected in a manner that validates that all 4 strands of the career education and work standards have been meaningfully addressed. Grade 8 is very similar in the way it's structured. Again, there should be 6 total pieces of evidence in this strand. In addition to the K-5 evidence already collected, 6 more pieces would be collected in the grade 6 to 8 band. One of the 6 must be the student's individual career plan. Please note, teachers are responsible for the collection of data during the year or years which a student is on their caseload. If a student is new to you and there are no artifacts present, please document this on your checklist, which will be shared momentarily, and record it on the survey that would be sent to you at the end of the school year. Ideally, by the end of grade 8, the student has a career portfolio containing the K-5 grade band evidence and an additional 6 pieces of evidence, or at least 2 pieces of additional evidence in each of the following: grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8. Evidence shall be collected in a manner that validates all 4 strands of the career education work standards have been meaningfully addressed. One of the pieces of evidence for the 6 to 8 grade band, must be the student's individualized career plan, which we will share in a few moments. Slide 3 of this PowerPoint contains a link to the standards as well as a brief outline of the strands. At the end of 11th grade, you have 8 pieces of evidence rather than 6. The increase comes for 2 reasons. One is that you're nearing the graduation date, and also because we're going to specifically mandate that 2 artifacts demonstrate implementation of the individualized career plan and need to relate to that 8th grade goal. There should be a connection. The 2 artifacts that demonstrate the career plan need to be directly tied back to that career plan. It should be consistent and integrated. Ideally, by the end of grade 11, student has a career portfolio containing both the K-5 and 6 to 8 grade band evidence and an additional 8 pieces of evidence for that band that goes to grade 11, or at least 2 pieces of evidence each year collected in the 9 to 11 grade band that validates all 4 strands of the career education work standards have been meaningfully addressed. At least 2 of these pieces of evidence for the 9 to 11 grade band must demonstrate implementation of the student's individualized career plan. Please be advised, best practice will be to collect evidence throughout the school year, keeping in mind that there are 4 career strands that need to be considered. It's best not to wait until the end of the year to collect evidence, as events such as prolonged absences of a student or staff member, movement between classrooms, or as an extreme example, COVID, could impact the ability to obtain that needed data. Ideally, by the end of grade 11, for federal accountability, you would have 20 pieces of evidence, 6, 6, and 8. That includes 6 pieces of evidence in the K-5 grade band. 2 of those 6 pieces must be completed by the conclusion of 3rd grade. So you have K, 1, 2, and 3 to collect 2 pieces of career exploration evidence in that band. The next 2 must be completed in grade 4 and 2 in grade 5. Each of the 4 career strands must be addressed at least once in the 6 total pieces of evidence for each grade band. Most really rich, robust activities will cover more than 1 strand, so this is not as difficult as it may seem. This slide outlines the artifact collection requirements for each grade. Keep in mind, you may not have artifacts from prior years available to you. As the checklist was added as a requirement during the 2021 school year, students who were in the LIU classrooms last year should now have a checklist in their student folder, as well as at least 2 artifacts. In regards to the career plan that has been mentioned a few times previously, in accordance with the career education work standards, a career plan is a document or similar item developed by the student that identifies a series of educational studies and experiences to prepare them for post-secondary education or work, or both, in a selected career cluster or area. And I'm going to click on the link embedded in your PowerPoint, and I will pull up a sample career plan. So I just wanted you to know that that is available and linked in the PowerPoint presentation that will be shared. So a career plan of some sort needs to be included in the grade 8 band. So that's just a sample for you. Shifting to reporting requirements, artifacts should not be all the same for students in your classroom. They need to be individualized based on student interests, or for older students, based on that career plan that we just discussed. Be prepared, as districts could request the actual physical artifacts from you. We have had several requests last year. Please communicate with your IA or your supervisor if you do get that request. Just a quick couple of reminders on this slide. It is important to remember that the IEP cannot replace the career portfolio, and services and activities in the IEP should support goals aligned to the student's portfolio. There should be some alignment there. So let's talk about evidence. This slide and the next discuss what could be considered evidence. This term evidence is used interchangeably with the term artifact. Acceptable evidence needs to demonstrate student engagement. Lesson plans or curriculum maps would not be sufficient evidence, nor would simply recording a score or student attendance. An artifact demonstrating successful completion of a standards-based curricular activity must be produced. The original work is not the only acceptable artifact, though. Digital pictures, video recordings, or scoring rubrics are examples of acceptable artifacts that may be used in the portfolio as evidence rather than a performance-based task itself. Here are several examples of acceptable and unacceptable evidence. You can see there are quite a few examples of acceptable, and there are many more than what's pictured on this slide. This slide outlines the requirements for collection and storage of student artifacts. Regardless of where artifacts are stored, the checklist must be completed. And I'm going to share with you, you can see there's a link here for the career readiness checklist. I'm going to share that with you so you can see what that looks like as well. Here is the career readiness evidence checklist that is to be stored in the front of each student's folder in your classroom. It outlines the number of articles that need to be collected. It indicates that you need to just mark with an X whether it's contained in the folder or an alternate location, or if the artifacts were sent to the district. At the bottom, it outlines what types of evidence you need to collect for those couple specific years. In grade 8, we need to have a career plan included, and in grade 11, we need to have 2 pieces of evidence that are related to that career plan. Please be aware that it's fine to store evidence in Google Drive. However, you need to make certain that the file that you store evidence in is shared with both your supervisor and your instructional advisor. And please be certain to name the file as outlined on the next slide. So we want to make sure that all artifacts are labeled with the student's current grade, the student's last name, and first initial. And on the checklist that I just showed you, if career artifacts are stored in another location, you need to make sure that you note that location on the checklist. And then just on this table below is just the information that I reviewed with you on the checklist a moment ago. So we're drawing to a close here with this brief overview, and I just wanted to share some resources also embedded in the slide. There are some sample activities for students with low incident disabilities. The standards themselves and some other activities are here as well. And on the next slide, let me just go to the next one here, are some I statements sorted by grade, and then the actual standards themselves embedded in a summary card. And then finally, I have included a link here of PA Career Zone. This is a good resource to check into if you're looking for activities to do with students that would be acceptable to use as artifacts. So please feel free to check that out as well. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you have questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me at my email, pawaisaki@iu12.org. Thanks so much.